Good evening. Welcome to the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education, public hearing, almost misspoke, public hearing of June 15th, 2026. If you're tuning in this evening, this is going to be a relatively brief meeting. We will be having a public hearing regarding the millage rates and the budget for the upcoming school year. We'll be hearing primarily from Mrs. Allison Smith. At this point, Mrs. Acosta, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford.
Here.
Mrs. Frank.
Here.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. McFarland.
Here.
Mrs. Acosta is here. President Burton.
Here, and we have a quorum. As I said, this is going to be a relatively brief meeting with just this one item on our agenda. Following this meeting, we'll probably take a momentary break, and we'll go right into our regular meeting, which will be much more comprehensive. If you are viewing this evening, there's no one in our room, but if you're viewing from home and you'd like to follow along with our agenda for this meeting or the following, you can go to our website, which is livoniapublicschools.org. Hover over the board tab, and you can drop down to board meeting information. And there you can find the agenda for this meeting and for the following this evening. The next item on our agenda is item 2, audience communications. I don't have any blue slips. Are there any members of our audience that would like to participate in audience communications this evening? Seeing nobody, we're going to go on to our next item on our agenda, which is the proposed 2026-2027 budget and millage rates, and we will be hearing from Mrs. Allison Smith.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the entire board and to the cabinet team. The proposed millage rates and budgets is something we spend months preparing. So as you said, this will be a shorter presentation tonight, but it's definitely been a comprehensive discussion with the board and with our cabinet team on the budget for this coming year. So with that, we've got just a couple slides for folks to be able to follow along with. The next slide is our proposed millage rates for this coming year. The operating millage is one that gets levied on all non-primary residences, so the non-homestead, and that's 18 mills. We levied 18 mills last year, and we're looking to levy 18 mills this year, so no increase. And if that is approved by the board, that would bring in about $33.2 million for our general fund. I will take a minute just to explain. Schools are primarily funded through a foundation allowance from the state. So for this year, we received $10,050 per student. But the state doesn't actually give us $10,050 per student. They assume that school districts are levying this 18 mills here locally. So if our community weren't to pass this, the state would not make that up, and this would just be lost revenue to Livonia Public Schools. So very important that we do levy it, and we've had great support of our community. We've got this levy in place, I believe, until 2029. So it was passed at a 10-year renewal, so it's set for another couple of years. The next millage I'm proposing is our debt millage, and this is a result of selling bonds. So our community approved bonds in 2013 and again in 2021 to do a number of improvements throughout the district. If you've had an opportunity to visit, you've definitely seen that money at work. And so to pay back those bondholders, we would need to levy 4.1 mills, which is the exact same as what we did last year. So same rate as last year. And if approved, that would bring in $25.9 million to make those debt and interest payments this year. And then last but not least, our sinking fund. So a sinking fund is similar to a bond, but this is like a cash basis where whatever we collect from the community, we put towards projects. It's very restricted on how those funds can be spent. They can be used for repair, now technology, very, very prescriptive of what it can be used. We can't use it for salaries. We can't use it for textbooks, things like that. Last year, we levied 1.5664 mills, and this year we're proposing to levy just a little lower than that, and that's due to the Headley rollback. So that's a requirement the state has. They take a look at what the property tax values, how they've increased, and if they've increased more than the CPI, they have us roll back that this, in particular, the sinking fund. So this year's rate would be 1.5568, and that would bring in just under $10 million to the district to be able to tackle those projects. Right now, we're heavily focusing our sinking fund dollars on roofing repairs and replacements, and then paving projects throughout the district. So these are the proposed millage rates. On the next slide, we'll get into now how does that impact our budget. And one of the biggest things I want to share with our community that we've talked about in depth is what is the target for our budget, and our target is to maintain a 15% fund balance. That was a number established by the Michigan school business officials as being a healthy fund balance for school districts, so that has been our aim. There's a number of reasons that we've gone over multiple times, but again, it's so important, so worth going over for our community. First and foremost, the financial stability that brings us. I know, even just going on to that next one, the protection against state funding uncertainty, there is a lot of uncertainty. Number one, the budget from the state is supposed to be passed by July 1st. Last year it was approved October 7th, so well after our school year starts. So what that fund balance does, or you could call it a savings account, does for us is it gives stability. It allows us to plan accordingly for the coming school year, to not have to be making drastic changes to our programming for our students, waiting upon that state budget. We can give it a little grace, a little time for it to come in. Not to say that we wouldn't love to see a budget passed before July 1st, but it again allows us to maintain our operations and continue to provide excellent programs for our students while we wait for that state budget to come in. So that's one of the huge benefits. The next one too, the cash flow protection. Our first state aid payment from the state doesn't come until October, and we don't start school in October. We start it this year. It'll be starting in August. So we obviously have to pay staff for coming. We have to get supplies and different things in order for to open our doors back up for our students. And so with a fund balance, that allows us to not have to borrow any money to make payrolls. We have enough savings to be able to pay those bills until the first state aid payment comes on October 20th. Next big one is the credit risk consideration. So as we just discussed on the last slide, we have been very fortunate to pass and sell bonds here in our community. And with this stability of our fund balance, we are looked at as a favorable investment by investors. So we're able to secure lower interest rates. And that's really a win for our taxpayers, because that means when we borrow money, it takes less money or less cost to borrow the funds to do the projects we need to do. So again, a huge benefit to our community. And then last but not least, of course, the long-term sustainability. We are wise stewards. We try to handle the taxpayer money with great stewardship, and we take our jobs very seriously. We do scrutinize everything that we spend, make sure that it's being spent accordingly as it was meant to be spent. And this fund balance allows us to have, sustain how do I want to say that, but just our operations to be able to be stable, that we don't have huge fluctuations in programming from year to year, because we have a savings that we can, again, use to meet our programming needs. So with that, I will show you the numbers that we went into in detail over the last few weeks and months. The first column on here is our final amendment for the 25-26 school year, and that impacts our proposed budget because that tells us how much money will we have to start the year off next year. So this year we started off with $31.3 million. I'm estimating that we'll bring in $188.3 million. We will spend $191.5 million, and we'll have an ending fund balance of $28.1 million, or 14.7%. So right there within that 15% window that we're looking for. I will point out that is not a typo on your screen that you see. The proposed budget for next year, I'm estimating that we'll have a beginning fund balance of $29.1 million. That's $1 million more than what you see as the ending fund balance for this school year, and that's because we want to be very transparent that we generally are going to come in more favorably than the budget that's been approved by the board, and that's for a very simple reason. We are legally not allowed to spend a penny more than what the board has authorized us to spend, so we have to plan for the unforeseen. We only have a few weeks left of the school year, but we can't predict if something's going to break that needs to be fixed, or if we'll need a professional service needs to be called in to help us. So we always have to put in a little cushion, I'll say, into the budget to make sure that we can get through the end of the year without spending anything more than what the board's authorized. So anticipating starting next year off with $29.1 million, that we would be bringing in revenue of $191.8 million, have expenditures of $192.1 million, and end the school year with $28.8 million, or a 15% fund balance. And as we did talk about in depth last week, those revenue estimates are estimates at this point. We don't have a state budget yet. We do have 3 different proposals out, though, that we've been able to review, and in all 3 of those proposals, we saw a $250 per pupil increase, so we built that into our proposed budget. We also estimate how many students we'll have coming to us in the fall, and so we built that into the budget, and a number of other factors. So I would definitely encourage our community, if they have any interest in hearing more about the budget, to tune back into to our committee of the whole, where we spent, I'm sure, well over an hour going through our budget book. So not only did we go over the general fund, but as we'll see on the next slide, we also went over all the various funds that the district maintains. So those budget books are available on our website. Right now, they're under the board agenda tab. If they are approved by the board tonight, they will also be found on our budget transparency page. So it's a nice big icon on the home page so our community can easily get to that. So that is what I have for you tonight. I'm happy to open answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much for not only this presentation, but as you said, the months of work that go into getting it ready for tonight and being able to boil it down. If you're looking for more detailed information, you can go back and on our website and watch our Committee of the Whole meeting where we went into greater detail into each one of those categories that you mentioned. So that can be found on our website under the board tab, also under board meeting information. So are there questions or comments from board members or the superintendent at this time? Mrs. Oquist.
Thank you, President Burton. I'd like to just make a couple of comments about the importance of what Mrs. Smith has shared. And certainly her knowledge on this topic is unsurpassed. And we are so grateful for the work that she and her team do to have us in this position. I just wanted to remind the community, I know the board knows this and I know our cabinet team knows this well, but we have 4 core priorities. They are our LPS priorities. It is the focus of our decision-making, and it determines where we put our resources, both human capital, our time, our energy, and our money. And one of them focuses on fiscal responsibility. I'd like to take just a moment to share that with the community, as well as our beliefs about that. So it'll be brief, but I believe important. So one of our 4 core priorities is fiscal responsibility. And we describe that as exhibiting thoughtful and consistent oversight of budget development in order to utilize our district's finances and resources to maximize opportunities for students, support our priority focus areas, and promote responsible stewardship. Further, we believe fiscal responsibility grows our ability to maximize opportunities for our learners, resources for our staff, and impacts all of the remaining priority areas on which we focus. Thoughtful and consistent oversight of budget development supports our fiscal goals. Exploring and implementing budgeting and spending best practices that support a responsible fund balance is fiscally prudent. In seeking additional resources that support our priorities and long-term goals through revenue enhancements such as grants, community partnerships, asset management, millages, and bond issues. And finally, we believe financial transparency builds trust and confidence. And I would say, when we look at this priority area, when we look at these beliefs that we hold as a district, that our cabinet team has established, that we have shared with our board, with our administrative leadership team and our entire staff, I believe that really describes in a very exemplary way the way that Mrs. Smith and our cabinet team as a whole oversees our fiscal responsibility and our fiscal stewardship. And I want to thank our board for continuously holding such high standards for us in this area, for continuously engaging in discussions. It's not just in June, it's throughout the year. You've asked for detailed quarterly updates that you get throughout the school year, and at no time are we not abundantly clear with the public and with our board. We are aware of where every dime is spent. We are held responsible for that. And we take time at our study sessions and committee meetings through the work of Mrs. Smith and the finance team and this board to focus on this core priority. And I'm truly very proud of what happens in this area in our district, and I know you are as well. Many public entities have faced financial crises, and it's something that it would be easy to push some of those difficult decisions down the road. And time again, I see our cabinet team willing to take on the tough decisions now to be certain that we have this stability in the future. And when you talk about what this does for our learners, the resources for our staff, and what makes Livonia Public Schools a draw for our community, it makes each one of those decisions worth it. So I want to thank our board for being so steadfast in your expectations for us. And I want to thank Allison and our entire cabinet team for their work on this. Over the past several months, we've had a lot of very deep and thoughtful discussions about the impact of our budget decisions. And we know that that impacts across our district. And so we have been, I say very fortunate, but it's been very diligent efforts to get to that point. So thank you to everyone, our board and our cabinet team, so being so focused on this core priority.
Thank you, Mrs. Oquist. Comments by other board members? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, President Burden. And just to sort of follow up on what Mrs. Oquist said, we do a quarterly update, but that's not all we do. If something unusual occurs, we have a budget discussion on those as it happens. We don't just sit back and rely on, oh, we're going to do a quarterly or quarterly or quarterly, because life is not static, it's dynamic, and it changes. And I'll just go back a few years when we lost $470 per student in the middle of the year. That took some difficult adjustments and belt tightening. I just wish that the state would take as seriously as we do the deadline that we have to have our budget finalized by. Because it puts a strain on all districts, not just us. When the state does not have a finalized budget, we're sort of driving in the dark, so to speak. But I'll say this, we are audited every year. And I'll tell you, we have such a great department led by Mrs. Smith that she does an amazing job of estimating where that number is going to come in. And we're within 1% every year. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens through a lot of work, keeping eyes on what's going on, bringing to the board when things change in the middle of the year, because you never know what may happen. So it's a team effort. We're so thankful that we are always within that 1%. And the money is spent judiciously. I would dare anyone to come in and audit us and say, our money isn't being spent exactly where we say it's being spent. Yep. And I think that's a testament to the entire staff and the entire cabinet, the board, what we do, we follow it. And I just think it's outstanding the way we are. And we appreciate all the work that's put in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Other comments? Mrs. Jarvis?
Thank you. Tonight we talked about millages. We talked about our sinking millage, our bond millage. We talked about our non-homestead millage. And those are, while they're part of our budget, they are not up for on our ballot this year. Could you please just address why we're talking about it if it's not on our ballot? I don't want to confuse our public or to have them think that this is something that they'll be voting on because it's not.
Yep, absolutely. So it was something, I'm trying to remember the year that we had the election now, because, gosh, was it 2019? It's been a few years ago now.
2018 for the sinking and 2019 for the operation.
Perfect, thank you. So we did have to go, at one point, it was a ballot question that our voters had to vote on, but we asked for authorization for 10 years. So these, between the operating millage and the sinking fund, one goes through 28 and one goes through 29. So, but every year by law, we're required to reauthorize what they've approved us to spend. So that's why I bring it to the board. So, for instance, we're not legally allowed to levy more than 18 mills for the operating millage, but we still do have to present it publicly. And then the board ultimately has to authorize me to then send that to the county and to the city to collect on our behalf. So that's the case with each one of these. They've been approved at one point by the voters. And on that ballot, they'll say too, like the operating millage again, when it expires, at that point, we'd have to go back out to the community and get their reauthorization. But this is really like an annual reauthorization that the board approves so that we can, again, levy that each year. So, like you said, this is not a tax increase. It is not a new tax. These are, all three are millages that have been in place for a number of years. The first two are exactly the same as they were last year, and the third, the sinking fund, is actually a decrease from last year. So, not sneaking anything by anybody.
Thank you, Mrs. Jarvis, and thank you, Mrs. Smith. Mrs. Frank?
Yes, I just wanted to, believe it or not, you mentioned that we need the budget, or that the law is that the state passes the budget by July 1st. And that is only 2 weeks away. And so I understand that in the budget process, there's some more discussion being introduced about budget reforms and that sort of thing. So anybody who is listening and cares about school budgets, it would be imperative that our state legislature passes the budget by July 1st, so that we can put everything in place, so that this is, we can take advantage of the monies that they have. And so that is one of the pieces that 2 weeks doesn't seem like a very long time to get these budgets passed. And so I just wanted to encourage our community that if they are so inclined, to reach out to our legislatures to make sure that this budget does get passed in 2 very short weeks.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. Other comments from board members? Along the line of what Mrs. Frank was saying also, the per pupil funding is very important, and we are hearing a consistent $250. At least we're hearing that from all three, the state, the House, and the governor's proposals. But we also know that the devil's in the details. So if you're just looking at at a glance, the $250 may or may not be actually what net comes into our school district, because there are a host of categoricals and other places where sometimes the student money comes back out of our pocket before it ever gets to us. So really, the devil's in the details in terms of the entire budget. So we need a budget that's passed by June 30th, absolutely. But also that maintains strong school funding, and that does not just put it in publicly as the per pupil allowance of $250, and then quietly takes it out in the details of many pages into the budget, so that $250 does not look like $250. So absolutely, we are imploring folks to contact their legislators, let them know how important that is, and that school funding as the whole stays strong and stable, which is, I believe, very important. The only other thing, I'll just repeat what you said to make certain everyone caught it. The 18 mills is for non-homestead, meaning this is not homeowners that are paying this. These are businesses or second homes, et cetera. But this is not a homeowner's tax, and it never has been. Any other comments from the board or the superintendent? Mrs. Smith, thank you again so much to you and your entire department for taking care of all of our finances, our budget, and then carrying it out through the year. To come in, as Mr. Johnson said, within 1% every year without fail is just a remarkable accomplishment with a budget this size. I wish all of our homes could take, my own included, could come in within 1% of a budget, but that's a tall ask. But thank you very much for everything that you do to keep all of our finances in such good order and being making sure that they are being spent as they're appropriated.
Thank you, and I'll pass it on to the team. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our public hearing. We are now adjourned from that portion of our meeting. Board members, does anyone need to take a break, or are we all right to go directly into our regular meeting? We're okay, ready? Go ready? All righty. Okay. Let me see here. Mrs. Jenkins, can you give me the thumbs up that that our whole tech portion is ready for us to go? We are?
You're live.
Right, I mean, I want to make sure that we don't need to take a break. I just heard we're good. Okay, good. We're good. All right, we're good. Thank you. All righty, welcome to the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education, now regular meeting of June 15th, 2026. And Mrs. Acosta, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford,
Here.
Mrs. Frank,
Here.
Mrs. Jarvis,
Here.
Mr. Johnson,
Here?
Mr. McFarland,
Here.
Mrs. Acosta is here, President Burton.
Here, and we have a quorum. Welcome to our regular meeting. This meeting this evening is a regular meeting, or as some have referred to it, a general meeting or a voting meeting. You may not hear the length of discussion that you normally would expect for many of the votes that we are taking. Please understand that that is not because we are not getting into the details, but it's rather because we've already covered them at previous meetings. We have study sessions and then very detailed committee of the whole meetings that lead up to tonight's meeting on a regular monthly cycle. So if you're looking for more of the questions and answers and details to these topics that we're going to be voting on tonight, I do encourage you to watch our committee of the whole meetings. You can either watch them online, or you can attend them live in person. They're open to the public. If you're looking for a previous meeting, you can go to our board tab. If you go to livoniapublicschools.org and hover over the board tab, go to board meeting information. There you can find agendas for our current and upcoming meetings, and you can find video of our previous meetings. So if you're looking for details on tonight's items, you could go to that board tab and look up the video of the committee of the whole meeting from last week and get a lot of details. Let's see here. We teach our kids community with care. We used to call our character our community with character. I think it's got a different name with it now, but regardless, we teach our children respect from the very earliest days in Livonia Public Schools until they are walking out our door. And that commitment starts and stays with our Board of Education. You have our commitment that we will treat one another and anyone who is coming before our board this evening with respect, and we ask that everyone who is participating in our meeting do the same. Let's see here. That's going to take us on to our next item on our agenda. Item 2 is our Pledge of Allegiance. Mrs. Jarvis, would you lead us in the pledge, please?
Certainly. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to move on to our next item, which is communications, item 3, and 3A is our district update from the superintendent. I will turn it over to Mrs. Oquist.
Thank you, President Burton, and I am going to share a few updates from the closeout of the school year, which had some wonderful highlights that we'd like to share with you this evening. So we're going to start out with a few snapshots from across the district. As you know, many end-of-year activities, whether they're kindergartners, fourth graders, sixth graders, eighth graders, and certainly our graduates. Here we start with some sixth grade celebrations at Johnson Upper Elementary. Although our students are only at our upper elementaries for 2 short years, they make some really very strong bonds, and our staff does an amazing job of taking care of those preteens. So we see some celebrations there at Johnson, and we'll move on to a great group of staff over in our Grant Multi-Age Resource Program. They were getting together and wishing everyone a great summer. So you see many of our staff, our paras, our teachers, and our support staff wishing everyone a wonderful summer ahead. We'll move on with not only an acknowledgement, but a thanks for 2 of our wonderful crossing guards. It's a job that is all weather and all year and at unique times of the day. And so I'm always grateful that we have community members who sign up through the Livonia Police Department and help provide a really, really important service for our students and families. So here we have Nicole and Cheryl, who are 2 of our crossing guards at Kennedy. They want to thank us for a great year. We want to thank them for their hard work. We'll move on to Emerson. Emerson had a fantastic 8th grade send-off. Our middle schools do a wonderful job. Again, even after, 2 years of building really an important foundation for students before they head on to high school. And those middle school years can be can be full and busy and filled with lots of different moments. And so having this time together as a class before they head on to their high school experience is always a lot of fun. This takes a ton of parent help, as well as staff and leader organization. So thank you to all who made those 8th grade send-offs pretty special. And we see some additional over at Frost, our middle school, our peer connection celebration. So our peers in our general education program, as well as our center classrooms, also have formed some tremendous bonds with one another, and that those often carry on through the years as they move on to high school, where we also see, you may remember from the fall, we had our peer connections programs highlighted from each of our high schools. And one of the neat things is we've actually begun to do some hiring of students who were part of the peer connections program in middle school or high school. And we recently just made a hire in Mrs. Sproul's department of someone who, when they were here as a student, was part of the peer connections program. It made such an impact that they chose that as their career. And that isn't the first person. And so I love that starting young. Everyone benefits from that. We had, you might have heard of Flat Stanley. This is Flat Calvin. So Calvin the Cougar from Coolidge Elementary School was given to staff and to families to take around town and enjoy different celebrations. They're encouraged to take pictures as they head out around town with Flat Calvin, and they're being shared on Coolidge's Facebook page if you'd like to follow the summer adventures. One of our favorite things, and I know is one of yours as well, and many of your own children have taken part in this, are these great arch pictures that are hosted by our elementary schools and our middle schools. And so it's always wonderful the day that our students get their cap and gown to go back to their prior schools, and many have clap outs either indoors or outdoors, and then take those great photos under the arch. So the next few slides are highlighting some of those groups. And you see students from different high schools coming together depending on where they started their early years. And so we have several pages as we go through and highlight. And I know this is a favorite for the students. I want to make sure that the students know it's also a favorite time for the staff to be able to go back. And if they haven't been working there, to go back and see their students, or for the teachers to see the students coming back. So I think there's mutual admiration on both sides. We want to share some kudos as we talk about our graduates now. We've moved on to our Churchill High School graduation, which was actually the last of our graduations. Monday, our LTP was our last one. But we had some pretty special graduates from Churchill. We had a proud mom on our board who was a mom of a graduate at Churchill, and it was really just a wonderful job. Mrs. Quesada and her team really highlighted the student body as a whole, and had a chance to celebrate each as they came across the stage. Our first one was the Franklin graduation. We'll move on to that, the class of 2026. And as each of those students came through, we heard a wonderful remarks by Mr. Pacey and members of the student leadership team there, which is always a treat. And then we had our Stevenson graduation. We had another one of our wonderful board members, mom of a graduate. There's just nothing quite like those moments. And so we see here the class of 2026 from Stevenson. It was Mr. Mazzoni's final graduation. He did a remarkable job leading that, and has for many years. And at the close, had some really important words to share with the students directly. We'll move on now to FTP. Our Franklin Transition Program recognition was fantastic. I'll tell you what, they did such a wonderful job, the staff there, talking about each of our students so personally. And many of our students will then be moving on to our Garfield Community School for the Western Wayne Skills Center program. It was really one of the most personal graduations, and it really was fantastic. Same at LTP. We only had 4 graduates there this year, and some of them were graduates because they had reached the age of 26, and some were graduates because they have been hired from their job sites and are moving into the world of work. In either case, we are so proud of them, and Mrs. Feigl did a phenomenal job through all of the graduations that she led, and we thank Schoolcraft for being a host partner for us here as well. And finally, we have the Garfield graduation, which was held at Franklin High School. I want to thank Mrs. Kukta and the Franklin, I think it was the jazz band, but it was one of our bands there. Phenomenal from the start and all the way through until the end. They just added that extra pizzazz to what also was a very, very personal graduation ceremony for each of our students, for their families, and for other students from Garfield Skills Center program who were there that were guests as well. So congratulations to all of our graduates. Thank you to all of our leaders who worked through these graduations, and you did it, to all those parents as well. So next, we'll move on to Passport to Safety. I want to give a huge shout out to Mrs. Jenkins, to Mrs. Ward. I know Mr. Johnson, I believe Mrs. Jarvis were both there as well. This is an important event. We had many students volunteer, over 70 students who served as volunteers. And this is one of those times that the community comes together to focus on things like bike safety and water safety, and just give a lot of resources to parents and to families about safe passages over the summer. So thank you to our team here who always shows up and shows out for all that you do. We're going to hit some athletic highlights as we wrap up. We had our Churchill track and field were division champs, so we want to congratulate both the boys and girls track and field teams. They were KLAA East division champions. And continuing on with Churchill, they were academic all-state. So for the third consecutive year, the entire team has earned academic all-state, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. And when we talk about student athlete, both of those words hold great importance, both student and athlete. We want to congratulate our girls soccer, varsity soccer. They were KLAA East division champs from Stevenson. Always an exciting accomplishment. And moving forward, Stevenson's continued success in baseball and softball. They won districts for both, and for the first time in school history, Stevenson softball won the MHSA regional finals. And so they got to the Elite Eight, and that's a really big deal. So congratulations to Coach Harrigan and to all of the ladies on that team. We had some great high jump success. It's amazing to get to states, and to be a state runner-up in any event is pretty extraordinary. And so we want to congratulate Tessa White, one of our Patriots from Franklin. She earned state runner-up in the high jump at the MHSAA state championship. And Franklin baseball won the district championship. And so they are often perennial favorites, had another great season. So congratulations to Coach Fournier and to all of the gentlemen on that team. So we ask you to mark your calendar as we go ahead. We have a few spots open for our 4th annual golf outing for the foundation. It is always an exceptional day, extraordinarily well-run, lots of great prize baskets. It includes 18 holes, a cart, lunch, raffles, and a buffet dinner, so as well as great company. So we want to thank Plant Moran Real Point for being a presenting sponsor, and to all of those who have already signed up to support our amazing education foundation. And finally, we will wrap up with just a reminder that we are still registering kindergartners. We've had a strong start through the spring for registration, and are excited to welcome the class of 2039. So just a reminder, that continues to be open, and we will continue to register students at kindergarten and all grades throughout the summer. And I just want to take a moment and thank Mrs. Jenkins and Mrs. Ward. They are the creative art directors behind these updates that I am so privileged to share each month. And oftentimes I will send them a photo or two, and they make magic of it, and or a mention of an event, and they pull this all together. It is no small feat. And this was a wonderful highlight. As you know, some of them are even more robust because we're in the midst of the school year. And I just can't thank them enough, because I think this is really one of my favorite things to do each month is to share this. I love when our room is full because I don't know how many folks get to see this, even though Mrs. Jenkins includes it on our website, and we often include a link in the LPS link. But I love when the room is full and they get to hear about our students and our staff. It really is outstanding. And I just want to take one more moment, and we will formally recognize this at a meeting later this summer, but I couldn't let the evening go by without expressing our deepest sympathy on the loss of one of our current staff members, Scott Leonard. Scott's been a really important part of our transportation department for almost 20 years, and he passed unexpectedly yesterday evening. And so I want to share on behalf of our Board of Education and our entire district our sincere sympathy to Stacy and his children, Josh, Nate, Shane, and Abby, and to their entire family, and let them know that our prayers are with them. And Scott will be deeply missed. He was a really important part of our team in transportation, amazing driver, and pitched in wherever needed, whenever needed. So he will be sorely missed by all of us, but even more so by his family. Thank you, President Burton.
Thank you, Mrs. Oquist. We are going to, at this point, go to item 3B, which is the update on the superintendent search, and I will turn it over to our Chair of Human Resources, which is Mr. McFarland.
Thank you, President Burton. First, I want to start by, on behalf of the board, thanking all of our community members and stakeholders who have taken part in the process so far. We don't operate in a vacuum, so the continued support and engagement from the community is wildly important. So the surveys and meetings are done. We have collected all of that data, and now it's on us to start to use it to put together the profile, the candidate profile that we want to move forward with. So the board will next meet at this board office, which is 15125 Farmington Road, on Monday, June the 22nd at 6 p.m. to further discuss and finalize the candidate profile. The position will then be posted internally on Wednesday, June 24th. Applications will be accepted until 4 p.m. on Wednesday, July the 8th. On Monday, July the 13th, the board will convene to review the applications, determine which applicants will be interviewed, and begin the process of preparing for the first round of interviews. The said first round of interviews will take place Monday, July 20th at 6 p.m., again, at this board office. It is open to the public. All of these meetings are. The finalists will be selected on Wednesday, July the 22nd. The second round of interviews will take place on Monday, July the 27th at 6 p.m., and the process will then culminate with the selection of the next superintendent of Livonia Public Schools on Thursday, July 30th. Again, we thank you all for your participation and support, and we expect that we'll have people involved throughout the process. So that's where we're at and where we're heading.
Sounds great. Mr. McFarland, can you add to that just the, when the activities between the July 31st and when our new superintendent will be starting?
Well, yeah, so that, once we name, then we get into salary negotiations and kind of that process, and then they will shadow Superintendent Oquist for, 2 months, I believe is the decided, and then take the reins at the end of Christmas break, so beginning the 2027 calendar year.
Right, okay, January 1st.
Yep.
So I have the privilege of having Mrs. Oquist as our superintendent for the next 6 months, and we are thankful for that.
Very much so.
Thank you very much for that update, Mr. McFarland. At this time, we are on to item 3C, audience communications. I don't have any blue slips. Are there any audience members who would like to participate in audience communications this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda, which is item 4. May I have a motion for the consent agenda, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Acosta.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the following consent agenda items as recommended by the superintendent. 5A, minutes of regular meeting of May 26, 2026. 6C, approval of lease renewals 2026-2027. 7A, approval of renewal of MHSAA membership 2026-2027.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Bradford for the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a board member would like removed for further discussion before we vote? Seeing none, we have the motion for the consent agenda. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Bradford. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 6, business matters, and 6A is the approval of the 2026-2027 board meeting schedule. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Frank?
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District adopt the attached bylaws to establish the first regular board meeting of the 2026-2027 school year on August 3rd, 2026, which will include organizational items in the calendar of 2026-2027 board meeting dates.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mrs. Jarvis, for the approval of the 2026-2027 board meeting schedule. And we will hear from Mrs. Oquist on this item.
Thank you so much, President Burton. As you know, we are required by law to adopt an annual meeting schedule, and we do so each year at this time of the year prior to our first meetings in the summer. We will have an organizational meeting on August 3rd, 2026, and then we will proceed to hold regular meetings, which are our voting meetings, every month through June 14th, 2027. Those dates are included in the board packet. They are also available on our website. In addition to that, the board regularly holds study sessions and committee of the whole meetings. We hold those prior to each regular or voting meeting. All of those meetings are open to the public. Our committee meetings are also, can be televised. They are videotaped and can be watched at a later date. As President Burton shares prior to each meeting, those are the meetings in which considerable discussion takes place prior to voting meetings. Additionally, you'll see on this year's schedule, many of the meetings that Mr. McFarland mentioned in his remarks regarding the upcoming superintendent search. Those are listed under the study session or workshop category of our meeting schedule. There is a special section that Mrs. Junta has prepared and put on the website. So all of those dates are available. So if you didn't catch those, they have been shared with the public, and they are also included in communications that have been emailed, as well as those that are on our website. But there is also a special section under the Board of Education tab where those dates can be found if anyone is interested in attending. Those are all meetings that are open to the public. If we have special meetings throughout the year, those may be called by the board president or any 3 members of the board by serving other members with written notice. Those meetings must be notified, the community must be notified at least 18 hours in advance, and those meetings are always posted on our website as well as on the front doors of our building here at central office.
Thank you, Mrs. Oquist. Are there questions or comments on this item? Mrs. Bradford?
Just a note, we did do a change in the committee of the whole meeting, a time change. So our study sessions will begin at 5:30. The committee of the whole meeting the next week will begin at 6 p.m. And then our regular meetings will begin at 6:30. That was just a bit of a schedule change that we made.
Thank you
Just
so much, Mrs. Bradford, for mentioning that.
No problem.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item? No. Seeing none, we have a motion for the approval of the 2026-2027 board meeting schedule, and the motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is 6B, approval of purchase of food service alarms. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mr. Johnson?
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approves the recommendation to purchase food service alarms for the district's coolers, milk coolers, and freezers from Smart Sense by DG in the amount of $60,608.12, which includes an annual monitoring and maintenance fee of $6,900.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Frank. And we'll hear from Mr. Green on this item.
Good evening, Board. Thank you for this deep review we had last week on our food service alarms. We're looking forward, as we talked about last week, of having this be our next phase of enhancements to our kitchens across the district. As you know, our community supported the bond work throughout our district, which enhanced our kitchen areas. And now these alarms, as we discussed last week, will give us that extra layer of protection for when we have maintenance failures, which aren't often, but it's an important safety regulation. And appreciated the deep conversation last week. I would ask for you to approve so we can move forward with this purchase.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments on this item? Mr. Green, assuming this is approved this evening, will this be in place by the beginning of the school year?
The goal is as soon, if it's approved, Ms. Schudart will get an email saying, ball in your court, let's move, and the goal will be to implement immediately.
Okay, great.
So, yeah,
Thank you.
yep.
I thought it was interesting in our committee of the whole meeting, you were discussing this in detail, as we mentioned. But one of the applications is, say we do have a power outage after hours, but it comes back on before we're back in school in the morning, which does happen at times. This way, we would know if that refrigerator has been out of service for 5 minutes or 5.5 hours, to make certain that we keep food safe for our
Absolutely, yes.
whole LPS community.
That is correct.
So, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, we have the approval of purchase of food service alarms, and a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Frank. Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next motion on, or the next item on our agenda is item 6D, approval of 2026-2027 food service purchase. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Bradford.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the purchase of food service items from Van Erden, Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the amount of $3 million. Cedar Crest Dairy, Hudsonville, Michigan, in the amount of $320,000. AJD Pizza / Domino's, Livonia, Michigan, in the amount of $250,000. MMAS Solutions, Livonia, Michigan, in the amount of $396,000.
100,000.
100,000.
Thank you. Don't be, I know. $100,396.75. And Livonia Italian Bakery, Livonia, Michigan, in the amount of $100,000 for the 2026-2027 school year.
Support.
Oh, good Lord.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Johnson. And when you've got a long list like that, some of those
It
numbers
was
do
a long
they
list.
start to crisscross. Thank you very much, Mrs. Bradford, for
you're
getting
so
all that
welcome.
read into the record for us. And we will now hear from Mr. Green.
Well, I was afraid of saying the word procurement, but now I feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you. So as mentioned last week, we're ready to prepare for next year. You saw those wonderful superintendent updates about ending the school year. We're getting ready for our food purchases for next year. So as you noticed, these are all Michigan-based companies. We're looking forward to supporting those companies again, and Ms. Schudart in the food service department has used this past year's estimates to plan for next year's purchases. Just a couple bit of data points for you. This year, we served 559,944 breakfasts, 982,785 lunches, total meals of over 1.5 million. So having that knowledge knows why we have to be ahead of the game and getting ready to prepare for next year. So great work by the food service department. Shout out to all of our cooks and assistants in our schools that do this work each and every day. So we'd hope you'd approve this so we can get moving forward for next year.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? Mrs. Jarvis.
Thank you. I would like to express appreciation that so many of our food service vendors are in fact local businesses, and the district is always happy to support our local businesses here in Livonia. So thank you for taking care of that.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? All righty, seeing none, we have a motion for approval of the 2026-2027 food service purchase. Motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mr. Johnson. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. Excuse me a moment. There we go. The next item on our agenda is item 6E, approval of the 2025-2026 budget amendment. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Jarvis.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools approve the attached amended budgets for the 2025-2026 school year. General Fund, Funded Projects Fund, Special Education Fund, Debt Retirement Fund, 2023 Bond Fund, 2025 Bond Fund, Sinking Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Food Services Fund, Health and Welfare Fund, Scholarship Fund, and School Activities Fund.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford, and we'll hear from Mrs. Smith on this item.
Thank you, not only for the time tonight to talk about our budget, but as we discussed earlier, this really is a conversation that takes place all throughout the school year. So with that, I'll keep it brief. We're looking at collecting revenue of $188.3 million in the general fund this school year. I anticipated expenditures of $191.5 million and having an ending fund balance this school year in the general fund of $28.1 million or 14.7%. And again, for any community members that are interested, we went into a lot of detail on all the funds that were just listed in our committee of the whole meeting. So if you're interested, I encourage you to go back and watch that meeting.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or board members? Mrs. Smith, just a clarification. In the third line, when it lists two different bond funds, it's the 2023 bond fund and 2025 bond fund. That correlates with the years that we pulled that money for the bond, correct?
That's correct, yep. So the community approved it in 2021. That's when we sold our first series. But because we didn't need all the money in year one, and we didn't want to then have to borrow money that we weren't going to use for a few years, we sold it in 3 different series. And we're required then to set each series up in a separate fund, and then that gets audited separately. So right now, we have the 2023 bond, which just got closed out this year. We had Yo and Yo in to audit that and assure the state that we did spend it as it was intended to be spent, and we're in compliance. So that letter got sent off to the Treasury, and then that just leaves us with our 2025 bond for next year. But that's the reason why we've got 2 separate ones listed on the motion.
Terrific, thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Seeing none, we have a motion for the approval of the 2025-2026 budget amendment. Motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 6F, approval of the proposed 2026-2027 budget. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. McFarland.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools adopt the attached proposed budgets for the 2026 to 2027 school year. General Fund, Funded Projects Fund, Special Education Fund, Debt Retirement Fund, 2025 Bond Fund, Sinking Fund, Capital Projects Fund, Food Services Fund, Health and Welfare Fund, Scholarship Fund, and School Activities Fund.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. McFarland, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And we'll hear from Mrs. Smith on this one.
Thank you again, and again, thank you for the time that we've been able to spend on this. Just to highlight, in our general fund, I'm anticipating us to collect revenues of $191.8 million for next year, have expenditures of $192.1 million, and an ending fund balance of $28.8 million, or a 15% fund balance. And again, as we shared during the public hearing, we don't yet have a budget from the state. They're required to have it to us July 1st, so we've built this proposed budget on our, based on our best projections at this point. And of course, we'll keep the board and the community updated if any numbers come in differently. And of course, we'll amend the budget as needed in the coming school year.
Thank you. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. McFarland?
I just wanted to, thank Mrs. Smith and her team on preparing this and getting through what last year, then into this year. Like many people in this room and in the audience, I wear a lot of hats around the town. And between the tax ramifications and the expenditures in the schools, it affects me greatly, none more so than as an LPS parent. And I am very proud of the budget we're putting out and the fiscal responsibility. And I think our community members, as it's been said a few times tonight, should feel really good about the financial stewardship of the cabinet, of the board. And I'm very proud to have put this out, and I can't wait to watch it go to work next year.
Thank you. Comments from other board members or the superintendent? Let's see. Checking on one thing real quick here. Oh, is next time? Okay. All righty. Mrs. Smith, thank you again for all of the months of work that go into this budget. And as we said, if you're looking for details, because we've gone into a lot of detail on it, roll back to the committee of the whole meeting and watch that, and you'll get probably more information on the budget than you thought you wanted. So, thank you very much for putting this together for us. And also the 15% fund balance. We've gone over that year after year, but the MSBO, which is the Michigan School Business Officials, have recommended consistently a 15 to 20% fund balance to make sure that we are covered for a host of things. Number one, that are the fact that we don't get paid from the state, our first payment for the school year until October, but we have to pay our employees beginning in August and September. And make certain that we don't have to borrow money for that kind of a thing. Make sure that we're protected against cuts during the school year, which we would like to say never happened, but over just the course of the last several years, it's happened twice. There are a host of reasons that we need that, just like a homeowner would need to have some savings accounts for emergencies that are unforeseen. But thank you very much for working diligently, Mrs. Oquist, Mrs. Smith, and the entire cabinet team to make certain that we put together a budget that still stays in that 15 to 20% window, so our district is financially solid. We can provide the services we do for our kiddos and make certain that we're doing it in a safe manner financially. So thank you for consistently bringing that kind of a budget to the Board of Education. We have a motion right now for approval of the proposed 2026-2027 budget. Motion by Mr. McFarland, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll?
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. Let's see here. Our next item is item 7, instruction matters, and item 7B is approval of purchase of the van for the work skills program. And if you hold on for a moment for me. There we go. May I have a motion on this item, please?
President Burton?
Mrs. Acosta.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the purchase of a 2027 Ford Fleet Transit 10-passenger vehicle for the Garfield Work Skills Program from Gorno Ford, 22025 Allen Road, Woodhaven, Michigan, in the amount of $68,976.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Bradford, and we'll hear from Mrs. Sproul on this item.
Good evening. So discussing this van has been something we've been doing over the last, not just several weeks, but several months as a cabinet team, and then bringing it to you as the board for your consideration to approve. This is the first time we have purchased a commercial van to transport students within our district, so we wanted to make sure that we went slow and followed the proper channels to do this. While we have wonderful transportation opportunities already available to our students at the Garfield Skill Center, this van purchase is going to allow students to have additional opportunities in our community for added trips while working on their transition plans as students with Livonia. This van purchase is made possible, as you mentioned, by a generous donation from the Lowell Rodney Johnson Foundation, in addition to funds that we have allocated from our Act 18 discretionary funds. So I'm very pleased to bring this to you for your consideration tonight, and know that we've done our due diligence in researching this to ensure that we're following the appropriate channels.
Thank you. Are there comments and questions from the superintendent or board members? Mrs. Sprout, just so the community is aware, in case they didn't watch the meeting last handful of meetings, $50,000 of this purchase is from the grant, and then the remaining $18,000 is from, sorry. I apologize for that. Should have turned that off before the meeting started. $50,000 is from the grant. The remaining $18,000 is from funds in our Act 18 program through Livonia Public Schools. And then we will have ongoing costs, insurance, maintenance, obviously fuel, et cetera. And those are going to be coming out of the general fund. Is that correct?
So our plan is to continue to use Act 18 discretionary funds as long as those are available. Those funds have been available for the past 3 years. In addition to that, we're able to use additional transportation dollars that we have to pay for things like gas and our, the time of the driver that is driving the van as well. So it's going to be discretionary funds whenever possible. We're hopeful that that will continue, but if it doesn't, we do have alternative sources to continue to fund that as well.
Okay. So thank you for taking the time, since this is a new endeavor in this type of vehicle for us. Most of our other vehicles, we have multiple of them, therefore maintenance is easier, et cetera, but this is kind of a new endeavor for us. So thank you for taking the time to make sure that we have thought through all of the ramifications of it. We're grateful for the grant, without a doubt, but it also incurs a responsibility for both operationally and financially from the school district, ongoing. So thank you very much for making sure that this is a wise purchase going forward, to be not only be able to accept it this year, but maintain it throughout the next coming years.
Absolutely. Thank you for your consideration.
Yeah. Any other comments from board members or the superintendent? Seeing none, we have a motion for the approval of the purchase of the van for the Work Skills Program. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Bradford. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7C, approval of student services technology purchase. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Frank.
Move that the Board of Education of Livonia Public Schools approve the Act 18 capital outlay technology presented for the purchase. Can I restart that? Let me just
Go right
restart
ahead.
that. Okay. That was what I clarified. Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District approve the Act 18 capital outlay technology purchase for the ASD, WKSKL, MOCI, and 6 programs, VI programs, sorry, for the 2026-2027 school year. The technology will be purchased from People Driven Technology in Byron Center, Michigan, $77,719, and Apple Inc., $21,647.25. The total amount of this purchase is $99,366.25.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Johnson, and we'll hear from Mrs. Sproul on this item.
Well, I'm bringing to you tonight something that has already been approved for purchase through RESA, so that's wonderful news that this will be fully funded through our Act 18 budget, and it will not touch our general fund. What I'm asking you to consider this evening is purchases of laptops, Chromebooks, iPads, and other technology devices for use by both students and staff in our Act 18 programs.
Okay, Mrs. Sprout, can you clarify whether they have been purchased or they will be purchased?
They will be purchased. So when
Okay.
it says purchased in there, that is not correct.
Okay.
This has already been approved as part of our budget. We have to turn in our budget in January for the following school year every year to be considered by RISA. RISA then approves it, and then we follow our district procedures and we bring it to the board before we order anything.
Got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Are there comments or questions from board members or the superintendent? No. Seeing none, we have a motion for the approval of student services technology purchase. A motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Johnson. And Mrs. Acosta, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. Thank you, Mrs. Sproul, for all those items. The next item on our agenda is item 7D, approval of purchase of Music First digital platform. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mr. Johnson?
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District purchase Music First Performance Solution from Music First in New York, New York, for $44,783.19. This purchase for secondary music teachers to have 3-year access to the comprehensive cloud-based platform for K-12 of interactive digital tools.
Support?
We have a motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Frank, and we'll hear from Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you, President Burton. This purchase, as you know, this year we've been working alongside some of our elective areas, and our content area leader, Mr. Van Ham, has suggested and requested that we purchase Music First's platform for our secondary music teachers, so all music classrooms at the secondary level. Some schools have used it this year, and they feel like it would be a good tool for all schools to be utilizing and having a consistent resource in all of our schools. This purchase would come from the secondary textbook budget, which has been supported by the Wayne County Enhancement Millage.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions from board members or superintendent? All righty. We have the motion for the approval of purchase of Music First digital platform. Motion by Mr. Johnson, supported by Mrs. Frank. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7E, approval of renewal of creative curriculum materials and licenses. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Bradford?
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District purchase a 2-year license renewal of the creative curriculum from Teaching Strategies for Early Childhood, Washington, D.C., for $46,181.61. This renewal provides access to the curriculum and professional development sites.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And we will be hearing from Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you again, President Burton. As we discussed at Committee of the Whole, we brought this purchase and had some conversation about renewing the licenses for our early childhood classrooms. We use creative curriculum from infant classrooms all the way up to our young 5s. One of the things that we talked about was the cost of the professional development. And so we went back to the company. We have reduced the number of licenses to the professional development site, and they gave us a reduced cost. So we feel comfortable with the cost of 12 licenses for the next 2 years, access to the professional development site. One of the things that the company talked to us about is when we started 6 years ago, they did not give 2 years of free access to the professional development site, which we have had for our Young Fives teachers these past 2 years. So that was something we were very confused about. So going back, I feel comfortable with this many licenses. That means each one of the PLTs will have access to the site and be able to log in when they're meeting in their professional learning communities. So this purchase would come under the elementary textbook budget, and it would be, which has also been supported by the Wayne County Enhancement Millage.
Wonderful. Are there questions or comments on this item from board members or superintendent? All righty. Seeing none, we have a motion for approval of renewal of creative curriculum materials and licenses. Motion by Mrs. Bradford, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and this motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 7F, approval of renewal of Authentico instructional licenses. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton,
Mrs. Jarvis.
move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District purchase a 3-year license renewal of the Spanish 1 digital textbook Authentico from Savas Learning Company, Paramus, New Jersey, for $63,200. This purchase allows students digital access to Spanish 1 textbook and online resources.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford, and we'll hear from Mrs. O'Brien.
Thank you again. Again, our content area leader, Mr. Matt Miga, has been leading our world language teachers since 2018, when each one of our language classrooms have updated their resources. So we have had Authentico for the last 8 years. And they feel very comfortable continuing to use that textbook. And we have run out of our digital license contract with the company, so we still have classroom sets of the physical hard copies, but we would need access for students to have both the access to the textbook and then the additional online resources. They talked about this year during their professional learning teams and feel like this is the, that they want to continue with this resource. So this purchase would come from our secondary textbook budget, and that also has been supported by the Wayne County Enhancement Millage.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from the superintendent or board members on this item? Mrs. O'Brien, assuming that this is approved tonight, the last few items that you've presented to us, will they be ready for fall implementation?
Yes, all of them are digital licenses, so once the PO is generated and the company receives that, then they'll give us access to the digital platform.
Perfect, thank you. We have a motion for approval of renewal of Authentico instructional licenses. Motion by Mrs. Jarvis, supported by Mrs. Bradford. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 8, personnel matters, and 8A is leaves of absence. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mr. McFarland.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accepts the recommendation of the superintendent and approves the request for a leave of absence as listed below. Lillian Peeland for the 2026 to 2027 school year.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. McFarland, supported by Mrs. Frank. And we will hear from Mr. Griesek on this item.
Good evening, everybody. The staff member listed in your board document is requesting leave from Livonia Public Schools for the 2026-27 school year. The request is in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement for her bargaining unit, and I ask that you please consider approval of her leave time.
Thank you. Are there questions or comments from board members or the superintendent? Seeing none, we have a motion for a leave of absence. Motion by Mr. McFarland, supported by Mrs. Frank. Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and this motion passes. The next item on our agenda is 8B, resignation, and that is just for board information purposes. It does not require a vote. 8C is retirements. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Acosta.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District adopt the attached resolutions of appreciation for services rendered by Rochelle Frankfurt, Holly Larkin, Jeffrey Maloney, Kathleen Obsinick, Cynthia Roberts, Joanne Sylvester.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And we'll hear from Mr. Francis on this item.
Thank you, President Burton. So tonight, we honor and congratulate an additional 6 members of our LPS family who are retiring from their positions with Livonia Public Schools. As these staff members leave the district, they take with them a combined total of 130.8 years of experience. On behalf of the administration, I'd like to thank our retirees for their dedicated service. They've provided the students of LPS, and we ask the board to please adopt their attached resolutions of appreciation, and we thank them again.
Thank you. Are there comments or questions on this item from board members or superintendent? Mrs. Frank?
Congratulations to all our retirees. We're so thrilled for them. And also, when one of us, we celebrated Mr. Francis last board meeting with his retirement when it was announced, but today is your last meeting with us, and your last duty as to read those names as celebrating other people who are retiring. So thank you for your years of service, and we celebrate you tonight on all of your years of service.
Okay, I read it right.
You did.
You did? Yeah.
Better than me.
Yes.
Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or other board members?
Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations to all of our retirees, the 6, the many that have been announced prior, and Mr. Francis, you will be truly missed. Many of our retirees are, every one of them are missed by different groups of people. You will be sincerely missed by all the people who are sitting in this room right now. It will not feel right or normal to walk in this room and not see you sitting there. As we mentioned before, when your name was read on this list, but I will repeat briefly, the wealth of knowledge that you have about education in the state of Michigan and about Livonia Public Schools specifically is so vast, so broad. It has always been impressive. It has always been very reassuring. If we talk to you about an item, we know that you know what you're talking about and you make it very easily understood by the rest of us. Anything you don't know, you find out quickly and have always gotten back to us promptly, usually by Tuesday morning of a Monday night board meeting. On top of your knowledge, you've become a dear friend to everyone in this room. It will not feel right or normal or good for us to come back in and not have you sitting with us. We just are happy that you don't live too far. And while the professional day-to-day will change, we're glad that the friendship remains. So. Any other comments from other board members or the superintendent?
Well, I've been banned from saying anything.
Well,
Is that correct?
I'm not banning you, so you.
We did celebrate last week.
Yes, we did. And already.
Ditto to everything that has been shared.
Yes.
We have a motion right now for retirements. Motion by Mrs. Acosta, supported by Mrs. Jarvis. And Mrs. Acosta, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Jarvis,
Yes.
Mrs. Frank,
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. McFarland,
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton.
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 9, hearing from board members, and 9A is the second reading of Board Policy CGC, Individual Employment Contracts. May I have a motion, please?
President Burton.
Mrs. Frank.
Move that the Board of Education of the Livonia Public Schools School District accepts the recommendation of the Board Policy Committee and adopt board policy language per the attached document for Board Policy CGC, Individual Employment Contracts.
Support.
We have a motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Johnson, and we will hear from Mrs. Smith on this item.
Thank you, and thank you for the discussion around this new board policy. So this is a new board policy, but not a new practice. So it's really codifying what our current practice is, which if I had to boil it down, it's authorizing the superintendent to negotiate and execute individual employment contracts, which again is the current practice.
Thank you. The vast majority of our employment team at Livonia Public Schools falls under collective bargaining agreements, but there are a number of folks that do not. So this takes care of making sure that all our information is codified and consistent. So thank you.
Thank you.
Are there comments or questions from the superintendent or board members on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion for the second reading of Board Policy CGC, Individual Employment Contracts. Motion by Mrs. Frank, supported by Mr. Johnson. And Mrs. Acosta, would you take the roll, please?
Mrs. Frank?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Jarvis?
Yes.
Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Mrs. Bradford?
Yes.
Mrs. Acosta says yes. President Burton?
Yes, and that motion passes. The next item on our agenda is item 9B, hearing from board members. Are there any board members who have anything they would like to share this evening?
Happy summer.
Yes, happy summer. I would like to take this opportunity on behalf of the Board of Education to thank very much, as we close out another school year, thank very much the leadership of Mrs. Andrea Oquist. As usual, your leadership has been stellar. As we've said in the past, but it bears repeating, the job of superintendent is incredibly complex. You have to have a strong background in and knowledge of education, of business, and of how to work the Michigan legislature, which we'd like to say that has nothing to do with education, but in Michigan it has a lot to do with education because it's how we get funded. And we have to continually keep our legislators up to speed with how potential legislation impacts the districts in which they represent. So that is a very serious and ongoing job, in addition to alerting the rest of us as to when we need to set back and when we need to get involved, we as board members and as community members. The job is very, I'm sure I know it's got its very, very fun parts, but it also has very stressful parts. And probably some of both in most days. But we appreciate your leadership. You are truly a leader among leaders. Other superintendents seek you out for advice on how to handle situations in their own districts. We are so very blessed to have you. I also would like to thank our entire cabinet team. Each of your expertise is invaluable to our school district. You make our jobs look very easy as a board team because you present information that is so thorough, and you are such good communicators at our study sessions and our committee of the whole meetings in explaining in great detail what's going on with each item. It's reassuring to us as board members to have each one of you be able to delve deeply into one area and have that be an area of expertise. I also appreciate how, Mrs. Oquist, how you've periodically moved some of the responsibilities around. So as cabinet members, you shift some responsibilities every now and then and broaden your own professional development and your professional expertise into different areas of education, which gives us a cabinet team of folks whose knowledge is both deep and broad. It's invaluable to our school district. It is so appreciated by every member of this Board of Education. And as we close out another school year, we just want to thank you for doing this stellar job that you do to lead our school district. We appreciate you. Any other comments from board members this time? No? All righty. We are now adjourned. We wish you all a very wonderful and safe and happy summer. Good evening.